Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 464 for the week of August 11th, 2020. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here with me this week?
Brock Sager.
Kevin.
Charlie.
And Toby, wait. We got a normal Charlie, not even an and Charlie.
Yep, just a normal Charlie this week.
You had to get that dramatic pause for Toby. Toby is going to be here. He is technically recording, just not on mic. He's got some work stuff that came up literally as we were about to start recording, but Toby's gonna pop back in here when he gets a second. So what a week, and it's only Tuesday.
That's an evergreen statement for 2020, Ryan.
It's pretty rough. What a crazy ass week. I mean, of course we got Kamala Harris, VP pick for Biden today, so let's all take a nice little round of applause for that. But yesterday was a little bit of a different story. We're gonna get into this stuff pretty just straight away here. So there was massive restructuring and layoffs at Warner Brothers, HBO, and DC Comics yesterday. I'm gonna go over this kind of two different ways, and let's start with the more kind of more, I don't say personal, but the sad reality fact is that about 800 people lost their job yesterday at Warner Brothers and, kind of AT&T family of companies. And that really, really sucks. I mean, that sucks normally, but that sucks even worse in the middle of a pandemic, when jobs are kind of tough and tight anyway. And who knows what unemployment's going to be like going forward. So, we have to talk about this because it's about DC Comics. But I don't want to. I want to make sure people know that this isn't some soulless corporate thing. I mean, I know some of these people that have been let go, and especially during the pandemic in the last few months, I've gotten to know a few of these people. We've talked pretty regularly from DC just due to the shift in their operations, and just as a retailer, I've had more conversation being part of Comic Hub, and so it's really sad to see some of these people lose their jobs at this point. I obviously wish the best for all these people going forward. And again, we'll get to the specifics. So if you have no clue what's going on, you'll hear. We'll get to everything in just a few minutes here. But the hope here is that this is a better, leaner Warner Brothers, WarnerMedia, HBO, DC going forward. The Warner Brothers has had some problems over the last few years, to be blunt. A friend of mine had worked with them for a number of years, some low level positions, but he really did follow the politics of the company, and he had a lot of problems with the way it was ran from kind of the management position and constant turnover of heads of the company and CEOs, and constant changing of visions. So clearly with the launch of HBO Max maybe not being quite what they wanted, and obviously the pandemic just putting movie and TV, grinding it to a halt. Just some drastic changes are going to take place. And remember, this unfortunately is not the last you're going to see this. I know there's been furloughs at Disney. As this goes longer and longer, we're going to see more people let go. This is going to hit every element of entertainment, sports, theater, everything. So, really sucks. Kevin, I mean, you've met again a number of these people through your.
It was sad.
Works.
It was sad. I mean, it's obviously sad when any mass layoffs happen, but the experience of, I think I was talking to you yesterday. The day's all.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're recording this, it would have been 2 days ago, or when people are hearing this, it would have been 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And you just see at first the rough headlines, like so-and-so speculated, which is rough to put that out in the press. Like, we're speculating so-and-so is on the chopping block.
Yeah, there's no press release of here's 800 people that were fired, right? I mean,
right. But then as names start to trickle out, I just kept going, ouch, ouch,
yeah,
ouch, ouch. Yeah, because it was just literally, if I made my greatest hits people I knew at DC, Like this list it's like with Dan gone, this is the list.
Yeah.
Not counting freelance creators. I'm talking about employees of the company.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is, I've talked to a few I've talked with a few creators, and even ones that are exclusive said, look, we're not involved in any of this. They don't talk to us about it. We have no clue. We're outside of that machine, right? So this doesn't affect any output from DC Comics in the short term. The long term, we'll talk about that later. But
so you're telling me I'm going to be getting the Joelle Jones CoverGirl Catwoman wedding dress statue that's supposed to be out in September?
Probably, hopefully, I assume so.
Because if not, I'm going to drive down to Burbank and I'll beat the shit out of some people.
Well,
so I mean, we know this doesn't affect super short term, but didn't they basically abolish DC Direct? Wasn't I reading that earlier?
Yeah. Well, so let's get to that. I'm going to hit this in a few parts. I want to start with the overall structure of WarnerMedia and what's going on here. Well, that is the name of the company, so yes, that's what I will call it.
No, I'm saying the structure. It doesn't really have one. It keeps moving and changing. And
well, you always assume the new people that come in have the right thing in mind, and that doesn't always work out that way, whether it's the people involved or the people they hired or just their idea was flawed from the start. To me, reading the let me get to the full headline here. Reading what's his name? My head is right here. Was trying to Jason Killar, I believe that's how pronounced his last name. Killar, Kilar, Killar. So he is the new Warner CEO, and there's been change as the heads of HBO Max. We've already seen some change within the company. So what the big memo that went around was dealt with how they are restructuring WarnerMedia. And this isn't like we're going to start downsizing everything. This was, no, we are consolidating because we've become too bloated. We are going to simplify everything and have a clear path of management, which I find a lot of the people that let go seem to be a lot of vice presidents,
high salary people.
But it's a lot of middle management, not quite the right word I want to use, but a lot of people that report to people that report to people. I'm in middle management. I don't really know what else to say. There does seem like they're collapsing a lot of departments down to be one thing. So they're from the kind of the little bullet points here is they're elevating HBO Max and expanding its scope globally, which obviously, they flubbed kind of the launch of HBO Max, but they're going to prioritize HBO Max. Obviously, that makes sense. And globally, especially if they can get HBO Max out internationally, that's very smart. We are simplifying how we organize our studios. So with that, there was so many different groups of people within all the different TV station that they owned had their own little heads, and the movie and TV for streaming and all these other random groups. So it's just, again, if you look at what they've sort of consolidated down, there's going to be a studio and network group for all original all original production and programming, which combines Warner Brothers, HBO Max, TNT, TBS, and True TV. And that will oversee all WarnerMedia television series and motion picture development, production, and programming. So everything is together. It's all part of HBO Max. It's all one thing, right? Because they had all these separate sort of groups that were all working together. So now, one thing. The part specifically that for us here for DC Comics says the Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group will be led by Chairman Toby Emmerich. Yada, yada. Talks about all the people who will be part of it. And Warner Brothers Interactive the video game stuff, remains part of the studios and network group, along with global brands and franchises, including DC, led by Pam Lifford, and our kids, young adults, and classic bundled businesses led by Tom Eschman. So all focus on engaging fans with our brands and franchises through games and other interactive experiences. So that's for us, that's the bigger point there, is that Pam Lifford, who's been ahead of DC and that entire brand management is still there. And they're just restructuring the entire layout of Warner Brothers, how all of these people meet and talk, and condensing a lot of stuff to, be more efficient. We are creating a consolidated international unit focused on scale and efficiency. We're bringing our key commercial activities to one group to allow us to operate more strategically, and we're making other structural changes that will help us operate more effectively and efficiently. I mean, that's a lot of corporate talk, right? But the end result is a layoff of 800 people between Warner Brothers and HBO. Now, will this actually do what they want? Time will tell. Reading it sounds good, right? When you read the whole layout of what they want to do, it sounds like the right decision, but we won't know till it gets done. So the people, there are big people that have been with the company for decades and decades that left as part of this. Jeffrey Schlesinger, who is the president of Warner Brothers Worldwide Television Distribution, Ron Sanders, who was the president of Warner Brothers Theatrical Distribution and Home Entertainment, and Kim Williams, who is the EVP and CFO of Warner Brothers Entertainment. So those people had been with the company for decades and decades and decades. To me, and this will go back into when we talk about DC, and Charlie and you and Kevin can kind of comment on this. I think when you have someone new in charge and you want to really clean house, you really got to look at all the people that are the head of the departments and go, look, you were kind of brought in from the previous administration, sort of the previous group. We're going to get a lot of these people out so we can start fresh. We can start clean. We can move, not everyone's leaving, clearly, right? But some people that had been there for quite a while, like, it seems like we're going to eliminate these positions. We're going to streamline. We're going to bump people up. And we're definitely seeing that at DC, at least. And so that's what it feels like to me.
So my experience with this, and this potentially goes into some of the other changes we've seen over time, but when you kind of have a changing of the guard at the top level of the company, you typically see like the people right underneath that person change pretty quickly, like at the same time in a lot of cases.
And that's those people that I just mentioned. That they were kind of, a lot of those people were at the head of Warner Brothers, so it makes sense.
What I kind of find is, as that person puts new things in place, they start to work out sort of the structure of how things will work now. So, unfortunately, a lot of times, as this all kind of trickles down, because it always sort of starts at the top and then makes its way to the bottom, the changes happen in phases, and therefore restructuring and layoffs and all that don't all happen once. It's sort of like these groups kind of put together a loose knit thing, but then those new people in charge of those groups have to get to know everybody underneath them, figure out the way it's all working, and then make some changes structurally under their groups, and so on.
And that did happen in 2018 when AT&T bought WarnerMedia, right? There was that immediate change. But that less affected, again, what we're interested in. That affected some of the really high brass.
But I guess what I'm saying is, this feels to me like, as you said, now they've changed out that level, so now they've changed out this level, which means now they're looking at the people underneath that level. Yep. Like, unfortunately, what happens now is a lot of, I don't want to call wasted meetings, but it kind of feels like wasted meetings, because it's a lot of meet and greets with your new boss, your new coworkers, as people figure out how everything fits, and then they have to go meet with their bosses to sort of really define what the structure is going to be going forward. Like, it's a multi-step process, and I would not be surprised if it happened again as the people who are now in charge have to get to know everybody who's still there,
right,
and figure out how everything fits.
Well, word, at least from Bleeding Cool today, was that there was kind of an all-hands-on-deck meeting for DC, for everyone under the DC brand today. So curious if more of that comes out.
According to one of the articles that came out, they're still working. They're still working there for 90 days.
We don't know. We don't know what the deal is. Some people are there possibly through the end of the year in a transition phase. I don't think everyone, definitely not all those people are still there.
So because these were actual employees, it's possible that they are still, quote unquote, under the umbrella for 90 days.
Severance for 90 days.
Not even necessarily direct severance. I've seen companies do a thing where they make certain HR resources available if they want to look at what open positions to apply for and give them some resources for revamping their resume, that kind of thing. Like, it may not be I'm actively working on projects for Warner Brothers for the next 90 days, but it may be 90 days with assistance towards finding a new position there or elsewhere.
If there's possibility within the company.
Yeah, because technically the state of California has a 60-day policy.
For what?
For like mass firing, or for when you're letting employees go, you have to give them 60 days notice as an employer.
I mean, part of this, and this is one of those things that I don't know, like a lot of companies here in the Bay Area have a certain percentage of their employees are actually technically contractors. I'm assuming these are like full-on employees.
No, these are all employees.
These are all employees.
But a lot of times when you hear about massive layoffs, the 800 number may not all be employees. It might be sort of permanent positions that were being filled by contractors. It's hard to say. It depends from company to company. But I know a lot of times when you hear about a certain amount of people letting go from Google or Cisco or Facebook or any of these companies, it's not all like direct employees nowadays.
So Warner Brothers let go 650 people, and HBO will cut about 175. So it's about 800 people. You know,
I mean, the whole DC universe is done. That got obliterated.
Well, we'll get to that. So let's start with DC Comics. And Kevin, you can groan appropriately.
Well,
what names come up that you have had more direct contact with?
Let's take it out of the personal. Going off what Charlie was just talking about, and the corporate restructuring. So like Ryan, as a businessman, you should sit back and look at this and go, yeah, that makes sense. Like if you had employee A, if you had two employees full-time at your store, one is in charge of shipping back issues that people order, and one is in charge of shipping trades that people order, you might take a look at your bottom line and go, do I actually need, can I consolidate the shipping department, for example, into one person? Where I'm starting to stumble, and the disadvantage of recording when all this news is so fresh is we don't know anything other than what's trickled out. You can restructure WarnerMedia and HBO and all the those media companies. The problem with a comic book company is you move Jim Lee out of a publisher job. Okay. You move Bob Harris out of the EIC job. Those jobs can't be folded into something else. You still need someone doing that job. And so the question is, are you just going to fill it with a different person? In which case, why make a change? The comic book aspect, because there aren't a lot of roles you can fold together, is what I'm wondering kind of what the thought process is.
Well, let's get to that.
Let's get to it.
So word is about 30% or 1/3 of the staff roughly of DC Comics was let go. As positions were consolidated, as things were moved around. Though this is unfortunately not very official. This is just the names we've been told. Jim Lee is no longer co-publisher / publisher, which he had been shared under Dan Didio, and then recently became full publisher. Now, there was for half a minute, people said Jim Lee was let go. That appears to be incorrect. Jim Lee, as far as we know, has maintained his chief creative officer, CCO position at DC Comics. Now, chief creative officer, basically, that's kind of one step under Pam Lifford. He is and this was Jeff Johns' position prior, before he went to DC Films. CCO in a creative entertainment field like DC Comics is the person that is the liaison between DC Comics and the entire rest of the company. Movies, television, video games, merchandising, theme parks, everything, right? So when they say we want to have a Superman ride at Universal Studios, Jim Lee's the guy that's the go-between DC and them to keep it on brand, to provide, the link between these things. When they're making a new Superman movie, Jim Lee is involved in that process. Now he's, this is the position he's had as well as publisher. I believe this to be the correct position for Jim Lee. Nothing against him being publisher. I mean, him and Dan Didio seem to do a perfectly fine job with it. I just think this is the correct position for someone like Jim Lee. So him no longer being publisher, while possibly financially and other reasons might not be good for him on a personal level. Again, I'm trying to at this point let's remove any sort of personal feelings about this and just look at the corporate layout.
So this is where, for me, I found it interesting within the corporate layout, assuming you're reading the same thing I did. So yes, he is no longer technically publisher, but everything I read suggests the people who are now in that position report to him.
And yes, they do. And so the publishers do report to the CCO. Jeff Johns became Dan Didio's boss. He is a head of publishing. He's the highest person at DC Comics, short of Pam Lifford. He is the kind of not below, not to the side, kind of at a weird angle. Like he is sort of the CCO, sort of this nebulous position that is connected with both companies, with both the overall WarnerMedia and then DC Comics.
It's the one that's kind of it oversees stuff that goes on directly with the comic books, but because the comic books are the original content,
I guess what I'm saying is I have a hard time considering a demotion when
he's not, though. This was his job. He was this and co-publisher, and then also just sole publisher. To me, that's why I don't feel like the Jim Lee thing is that big of a deal. I don't think he was ever meant to be sole publisher.
It's not a big deal to me, primarily because essentially what happened is Jeff Johns left, and Jim Lee basically was given Jeff Johns' job as well as all the jobs he currently had.
Right.
And then they let go of Didio, and again, Jim Lee's job took on his job.
Right. That's why I am not from a dispassionate point of dispassionate is that the word I'm looking for? From a sure. It is not I think this is the correct move. Now
I guess what I'm saying is I doubt that, based on what I have read, I would assume that there was not some big financial hit for him being able to move some of that stuff around. I don't think that this sounds like it was a reflection on him at all, other than a reflection on he was sort of. It felt more like he was temporarily stepping into certain things in the first place.
Right.
This is just now giving somebody else the official sort of title.
Yeah. Now I'm going to read the names and the positions of the people that have been let go or are in the position or in the phasing out part of this. And again, tell me if something starts to kind of become a pattern here. So let go from DC Comics is Editor-in-Chief Bob Harris, editors Brian Cunningham and Mark Doyle, Senior VP of Publishing Strategy and Support Services Hank Canals, VP of Marketing Jonah Weiland, VP of Global Publishing Initiative and Digital Strategy Bobby Chase. There's also talk of Eddie Choi, who is the executive assistant to Jim Lee, Sandy Resnick from Internal Publishing, Ad Sales, and Custom Creative Studio. Sarah Haskell is the marketing director. Michael Schelling, who is director of publicity. And Jim Skolsky, who is the VP of comic book specialty and newsstand sales. So a lot of VPs in there. A lot of that middle management sort of we have our editors, we have the people kind of on the ground, we have the head people. These are the people that handle all that middle stuff, right? So like Kevin was saying, what becomes of these jobs? I don't see laying them off if you're just going to hire new people into it.
Right.
So
you need an EIC. You could maybe fold some of those VP jobs together into some new
right
mutation. You need an EIC. You need a publisher. Brian Cunningham, super, super nice guy, is overseeing the Superman titles, the Green Lantern title. I don't remember if he's on Batman. He's on something else, though, where he's like the grandfather of all the editors on those books.
Oh, and Andy Corey.
Yeah. Talk to any creator at DC about what Andy Corey has done.
Yep,
in a good way, I mean.
Yep. I forgot he was on this. He wasn't on the first list I was right, but he was on the second list. I just didn't get to it. So about a third of editorial seemed to be let go. And can the existing editors make up that? Can you have a few group editors that edit all the DC books without the sort of the quote unquote lines, your Superman line, your Batman line? Do you necessarily need that? I mean, I would think you do, but this is the question going forward.
Well, Mark Doyle is Vertigo.
Vertigo and Black Label, right? And Andy Curry was Black Label.
Or
too.
Vertigo's no longer exists. Never mind.
But
Mark Doyle's Black Label, right?
Yeah. And Andy Curry as well, as far as I know. He worked on the Black Label stuff too.
So wait, so we're saying that Black Label's getting phased out?
No, I don't think so.
No, you're saying that the person in charge of it is no longer there.
I know, but like I read an article that said they're most likely going to phase it out because Pam doesn't like it.
No, absolute nonsense. Don't listen to anything like that. We are so far away from the phasing out of anything. There are so many. I suppose they could cut every upcoming project midway, but I don't believe that's the plan. Again, I will say this as vaguely as maybe I can, because I've talked with a number of people at and connected to DC over the last couple of days. So I'm not directly quoting anything here, but for the time being, it appears business as usual. It's just there's going to be different people involved with a lot of stuff, right? As positions are remade and fewer people taking on more work. I can tell you that Bleeding Cool is 100% wrong in their claim of the middle and lower end of DC Comics being completely gutted after the coronavirus and the shutdown and the change to different distributors. Sales on those books did not plummet to an unpublishable level. I will tell you that with 100% certainty. He is 100% wrong on that claim. Again, I've been told directly. There is, yes, things will change, right? But an abandonment of the direct market and single issue comics and only a focus on kids material and licensing out the comic books, that is 100% bullshit. Again, a year from now, fucking two more CEOs come in. Who knows?
So
right?
Ryan, the comeback would be, and I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not arguing with you.
Of course,
the comeback would be if it's business as usual and you're going to keep everything rolling. Why fire the EIC? Well,
so we have in the new positions, the two people. The current executive editor of Global Publishing Initiatives and Digital Strategy, Marie Javins, and the vice president and executive editor of DC's Children and Young Adult material, Michelle Wells. They've been promoted to co-publisher / EIC, right? So I understand the fear people have because you see Digital Strategy and Children and Young Adult now taking over the line. The problem people make is their current position does not dictate future roles necessarily and future output. That is what they are doing now. That is not their new position. They did not make the Digital Strategy executive editor the digital strategy executive editor of DC Comics, and now we don't publish books anymore, right? That was the position they had. That does not necessarily mean that's what the company's going to turn into.
No, but to to what Kevin was saying, there's a massive learning curve with moving these people into this position. And I'm not saying that they're right or wrong in terms of their assessment, because I personally don't have a great understanding of what it would take to sort of fill that role. But that being said, it's very different overseeing the entire sort of DC Comics line in a way and what they were doing before.
Well, for the most, they were overseeing basically their version of the entire DC line through these different imprints, and now they are moving to everything. Right?
Here's one comment, Charlie. For one thing, Marie, if I was starting a comics company today or tomorrow, and you said you can have Marie Javins as your EIC, I'd say sold. How much does she want? When can she start? Sold. She's been in comics. Well, I don't want to for decades. Let's just say it that way, so nobody sounds old. But she knows her shit. I just don't know what are you going to have a two-headed EIC?
Well,
rhetorical question.
Look at Didio and Jim Lee, right? I mean, you already have. So basically, you have two people splitting two jobs, publisher and EIC, right? One may be one more specifically. One, they may both split both positions. Publisher and EIC become one job that they both share. Again, digital comics can exist, and there's going to be a lot of push for them from every side. Marvel, DC, independents, everything. Doesn't matter what the current sales are, they're always going to push digital comics. The kids and young adult line is blowing up. That doesn't mean it'll be the case in 5 years or 10 years, but for now, it makes sense to have a focus on that. Again, you can do both of those things while still maintaining the vast majority of your traditional direct market line. Now, they could scrap the direct market entirely, and it's all digital Superman comics and Batman comics and all print kids books. Of course, they could. I just see no reason for them to, based on existing sale numbers. Like, if they want these books to be multi-billion-dollar sellers, they're just not, right? Like, DC Comics makes a shitload of money, but if they want publishing to be a $5 billion industry for Warner Brothers, for DC Comics alone, that's just not the case, right? So I can't, if they're that out of touch with what DC Comics is, then there's no way to guess what their plans are. However, if you look at the sales from the last 20 years of comic books, and I've said this endlessly, sales of single issues are flat to up across the board. And word is recently sales across the board, especially of graphic novels, but also single issues, have been blowing their expectations away. A lot of people have a lot of money to spend now during the coronavirus shutdown because they can't go on vacation. They're not doing a lot of trips. They don't have other stuff to spend on. Publishing sales, book sales, up, way up, right? So, and again, the complete corporate restructure of Warner Brothers has nothing to do with the sales of the Flash comic book, right? I mean, these things are anything going on with the restructuring of DC Comics has almost nothing to do with the actual success or failure of the line as it currently exists, because it's restructuring everything. If they came in and hacked away DC Comics and DC Comics only, then that would make sense that it was specific to the current goings on at DC. But with this one, it's the entire company. Anyone that was in charge basically got the axe, and they're completely restructuring this stuff. So turn to me in 6 months and let me know what DC Comics output is like. Turn to me in 2 years and let me know what DC Comics output is like. I just don't think we're going to see a dramatic shift. It's probably going to be less books. It's probably going to be more digital. It's probably going to be more graphic novels, and it's probably going to be more kids stuff. I don't dismiss any of that. I'm sure that's going to happen. You could lose 15% of the line, 20% of the line of single issue comics, probably, right? But you just have so many. You have less editors, you have less management, you have less people involved to produce these books. So a cut makes some sense in the short term, but I don't think we're going to be looking at, anthology comics at Walmart and that's it. I just don't. If someone else knows something I don't, I'd love to know, but I don't believe it.
So it says that they're going to be replacing a business manager to run the publishing side of things. This was first reported on comicbook.com, and then Heidi McDonald confirmed it with some of her sources for The Beat.
They're going to have a what?
They're going to have a business manager to run the publishing side of things. No one knows much about it, but it said to come from it said that the person they're looking to put there is from the world of esports.
Sure. I mean, again, random manager to manage all of publishing, probably. Yeah.
But that would replace your EIC.
No, totally unrelated. No, if they're talking publishing, that's not DC Comics specific. And editor-in-chief is not. That's editor-in-chief of DC Comics. That's not like head of publishing is not an editor-in-chief position. That's a totally different thing.
But yeah,
I mean, head of publishing would cover publishing for all of their products. That's outside, and that can include like. Don't they still publish like what's the magazine?
Mad?
Shit.
No, they got rid of that one.
No. Entertainment Weekly, right? That's still Warner Brothers.
Probably.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. I mean, it would be all that, all their books. Not DC Comics does fall under that, but Pamela Lifford is the person that runs the brand, the DC brand. Publishing would be a part of all of that, but not specific to DC Comics.
Yeah.
So I saw something about they're bringing someone from esports, but like, who cares? I mean, it's just some random manager guy. Like that to me.
But again, that's the thing is when you say you're going to be restructuring a company to make it streamlined and trimmer, why are you bringing somebody from something so random to come in and work on something that really has nothing?
Because at the end of the day, and this goes back to sort of the corporate thing, people will move people into positions that they've worked with in the past.
Yeah.
Or have some familiarity with. It's just sort of standard fare for this kind of stuff. So regardless of where this person's come from, if they have a good track record and some sort of knowledge with the current management, wherever that falls.
One of my favorite people of all time is Nintendo's Reggie Fils-Aimé, who prior to being the president of Nintendo of America was the senior director in national marketing of Pizza Hut, where he created the Bigfoot pizza. These are not the same jobs, right? It's just a fucking job this guy had, but he, this again, Kevin was saying about Marie Javins, it's like there may be more if her history with comic books may be a really good thing in this position, right? Who knows who the esports dude is? I have no clue, right? If he's a good manager, that's all that matters, right? He should be able to adapt to the current situation. If he came over from the video game stuff, they're pretty successful. I mean, I don't know where he comes from, but
the publisher doesn't need to be a comic person.
No,
you just need to make the trains run on time.
Yeah.
Right.
The EIC needs to be a comics person. So that's what I was saying. If that is going to be Marie, all of this is if, right? Everything is if. Then that's in great hands.
Yep.
Should we mention the ancillary departments?
So that's DC Comics, right? We just don't know what is going on past this. So let's do the easy one and the hard one. Easy one, DC Collectibles, DC Direct. To me, kind of a no-brainer, again, because you have just Warner Brothers marketing, right? You have Warner Brothers merchandising.
Yeah, it'll be in a Warner Brothers store. It'll be wherever Warner Brothers decides to sell products. Like, it's just going to be DC Collectibles, but it's under the Warner family.
This is a case where it does not need to be its own separate department in this restructuring. I understand this move because while I love getting stuff direct to the comic book store and exclusive, it doesn't necessarily maybe make the most sense in a bigger corporate structure. And we can also get the McFarlane figures that they made a deal with. And if they're doing stuff with Hasbro, we can get those, and we can, or Mattel or whoever it is, and they can make their own figures of everything, not just DC Comics. It can go to comic stores, it can go to chain stores, it can go wherever, right? So if there is a refocus on merchandising, it makes sense that DC Collectibles is absorbed into that. Now, obviously, I don't know the people there. There was very talented people, clearly. DC Collectibles and DC Direct made amazing stuff. I hope some of those people got brought in, because it would be a shame to lose them all.
And a lot of those were freelancers, though, like the sculptors, the designers. And
Yeah. I mean, like the people that obviously the people that made the decisions of what to work with. And again, that's a case where DC Collectibles worked directly with Jim Lee, so or Jeff Johns and then Jim Lee and the CCO. So again, his vision will still be in charge of the DC properties as far as it comes to merchandising.
I'm going to take 30 seconds here and raise my glass to DC Direct. R.I.P.
It's so sad.
For those who weren't around, I don't mean around like alive. I mean like paying attention to this. In the late 90s, I think is when DC Direct started. And all we had in the 90s was like those crappy Toy Biz figures from Marvel, like this shit in KB Toys and Toys R Us. And then suddenly you see in your comic store, here are action figures of the Golden Age Justice Society. Here are action figures of the Sandman characters. I was telling Charlie this just the other day. They released a statue of the cover of Brave and the Bold 28 with Starro. That thing was $195. I had never paid $195. I had never even paid half that for anything comic book related. I had to have that. DC Direct was amazing at that time.
When they became DC Collectibles, the last 5-8 years or so, it really was the Batman and Harley department with occasionally a bone thrown to everyone else. Right.
But when they started,
they had bombshells.
Those first, dude, like, you want an Unknown Soldier action figure?
Right.
You want the Metal Men? Like, do you want like a Superboy and Crypto 2-pack? Like, this crap would never sell.
They did those amazing 2-packs: Aquaman and Aqualad, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, the Silver Age Superman and Lois Lane.
And there's no reason to believe the spirit of DC Direct can't continue. There very well could continue to be direct market exclusive material just under a more general Warner Brothers label. It just won't say DC Direct on the back.
It seems like this is it just moves into, now it's underneath Warner Toys or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there were multiple departments for the action figures, for different lines, for different markets, Yeah.
So I guess the only point I was making earlier is there's no doubt in my mind we are still going to see Batman toys produced and that kind of thing. Like that in my head is not even like a question. But just like any other thing, when somebody new takes over, they're going to review everything that's currently on the docket that they haven't fully produced yet and determine whether or not they're still moving forward with it.
And then we'll see. I mean, DC Direct has been, or DC Collectibles or whatever, has been slower in their output recently. I think some of that's because of the shutdown. There's been some slowdown, but there's a lot of stuff. And there's a long lead time to this stuff. I would hate to have them turn around and say, "Yeah, it's all canceled." I don't think that's the case.
I don't think they would cancel across the board. I'm just saying I expect there will be some cancellations if there's any level of hesitation on whether or not something will sell. The new person in charge isn't going to want to take the hit.
All right.
And I'm not saying a Catwoman wedding dress statue would get cut. That seems like a fairly safe bet to me.
I will go down to Burbank and raise hell.
But it's just one of those things where, similar to what happened with when Black Label first launched and that kind of stuff, nobody wants to be dragged in front of their bosses right after they take the position when something fails or some controversy happens or whatnot. They want that track record, at least that early track record of success first.
Mm-hmm. So the other big question mark is DC Universe.
Well, you guys, did we talk about the collected editions?
Well, best of my knowledge, is no news on that.
No, there is. It was stripped down with Jeb Woodward and senior editor Scott Navigan, 25-year veteran, laid off.
Okay.
Like it looks like they're, like we talked about before, they're going for the DC Kids and YA books will be more of an important feature going forward.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's possible. Trade sales for DC for their classic stuff has been a little not as great sale wise the last couple of years, but long term, their sales have been really good. I think the material they're putting out now is very solid. I don't know if that's translating. Like the last couple months, things have really changed. They've done a really concerted effort to fix stuff. As far in the last 6 months or so, as far as layout, look, quality. I don't know how that translates to, like Amazon and Barnes and Noble sales. Is the wedding of Gene Loring hardcover gonna sell in a Barnes and Noble? No, probably not. But that's super cool that it got made, right? Again, I just can't. I won't believe that DC is going to like completely sideline its backlist material that is the bread and butter of modern comic book sales.
I think you'll see it trimmed down. Like the output will be significantly less.
We'll see. I don't know. Significantly? I don't think so. Trimmed? Yeah, probably. But again, I think everything is going to be trimmed. And this is not a Warner Brothers thing. This is a worldwide thing.
And I mean, from a striking while the iron's hot and that kind of stuff, as you touched on earlier, I don't see them gutting it 100% right now while everything is selling out and going crazy and they can't seem to publish fast enough.
Right. If it's profitable, why would they cut? Now, you lose a couple people, you trim a couple people out, and you're even that much more profitable, right? You're that much leaner. Maybe there was a few extra too many people. Again, I don't want to wish it will or say it's good that people were let go. But again, looking at it from that broader corporate stance, if this is the right decision, hopefully we'll find out, because trades have such a long lead time. We're not going to see any change on this unless there's just some wholesale cancellation. It'll be months, if not a year, before this really shakes out.
Yeah. But I guess my point is I don't see them abandoning something that right now is reaching a unheard of level of success.
Right. At least that's what we've been told. I've been told both Marvel and DC that the trade sales are out of control. So, trades of single issues are very easy and cheap to make because the work's already been done. Trades of older material is a little bit harder because you got to remaster the art and do all this stuff, but it's not that difficult. Trades are easy because you've already done the hard work. You've already created the thing. Now you're just repackaging it. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Are Marvel trades, single trades of regular store, like the regular series that are coming out, of those selling gangbusters?
Everything. Every trade paperback, every company. It's crazy. This isn't me, like, store. This is company-wide, national. Like, trade sales across the board of everything are going nuts.
Yeah, and
a lot of it's pandemic because people can't travel, people can't do stuff. Stuff's going out of print, stuff's going for crazy money, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's other factors to it. It could all collapse in 6 months when things go back to normal, or a year or whatever. But
like
now,
the reprint they did of Uncanny, not like, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago?
Yeah.
Already ran out at Diamond. It's just
it's everything.
The reality of the way things are going right now, it would be really, really dumb to halt production while things are this hot.
And I have no problem with them expanding and doing more kids' books and doing more all ages stuff. That's great. And especially it gives you more money, more reach for those titles. It just gives you more reason to do more collections, right?
Gets them in younger.
And Black Label has been very successful from what we've heard. So again, if this is your new marketing strategy.
But they literally fired the two guys that are at the head of Black Label.
But I mean,
and the thing
there
is,
are other people.
Pam, it has been known that Pam does not like Black Label. Like, this is not like,
show me the receipts, okay? I want to see the proof, because the internet says she hates everything. Show me the proof. I don't know. I don't fucking know her. I've never met her. Have you met her? Have they? No. I mean, she made comments. Like, I've never seen anything.
And even if you've heard comments like that, it could just be she doesn't like the name and it will get rebranded.
No, it's kind of according to Heidi McDonald's article and her sources, she says that it is said that she dislikes the more mature approach to comics. Okay.
Well, she is in charge of the line, but I mean the specific day-to-day operations and the overall editorial choices are. It's not really her decision. I mean, she oversees the brands, but like unless she comes down and fires everyone.
She just fired the big two guys who are heading up the mature label.
She did not fire a single person. I just don't. You can not like stuff, but also acknowledge that it's successful, right? When Black Label's gone and Superman's running around with pants with shorts, Robin doing 66 cartoon impressions, then I'm wrong. When Black Label continues and Metal continues and the Dreaming continues, then I don't know what to tell you. She could not like it, but she's still doing it. So,
but it's the thing is if she doesn't like a brand, she can have a brand changed.
Okay, well, when it changes, I'll say that it happened, but it hasn't happened. She's been there for years. It hasn't happened. It's gotten more. There's been more adult stuff at DC, not less. There's more Black Label. DC, Sandman Universe is on a whole nother thing. Dude, the Sandman audio is Audible's most successful audio drama ever, outselling in like the first week the Harry Potter novelization dramas. So like you cannot like something, but man, money does a lot of things to change your mind, and the success of those brands can do a lot of stuff to change your mind. You may not like it, but it's still going to be around. But who knows, right? I mean, again, 6 months from now, maybe it's all DC Kids, and that's it. And Batman's a G-rated comic, and I'll tell you that I was wrong when that happens. So,
well, we'll all be wrong because the shop will be down to just selling to kids, and it might not. Hopefully, the parents are coming in and spending tons of money.
Sure, I mean, they can do that, and every single comic store in the country will go out of business. I mean, because that's not the material for single issues. Yeah, you'll get some that their focus is kids' books, and sure, a few of them will survive. But you'll kill the entire direct market comic industry. And okay, I mean, if that happens, that sucks. But I just don't see it happening. I think there's smart people in there that will make sure the books that sell keep selling. Because if you look at the all ages comics that DC publishes, and then you look at the sales of the more mature stuff, I mean, what a great unintended possible quick segue.
Oh dear God, shoot me now.
Into the return of...
Dude, you suck at this.
Sales charts.
Yeah, which one?
You forgot, Ryan. Wait. Before you segue,
I'm not going to go full segue yet. Don't worry. But if
you
guys
forgot
stick around,
a huge item on this.
Hold on. If you guys stick around, we've got sales charts. It's a very special sales charts too. But if you look at the sales
charts from everything,
I'm not gonna spoil it here. But 9 out of the top 10 comics are very mature superhero comics. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. If they're like, oh, I like this other stuff. Okay, well, here's the sales. Here's what sells. You're going to kill the popular stuff and replace it with this other stuff? Okay. I mean, why don't you just do both? Because that's successful. Doing both also works. Some of the DC Kids stuff sells really good in certain places. It doesn't sell well in comic book stores. It sells well in some comic book stores, but the traditional superhero monthly comics is what sells in traditional superhero comic shops. You can't force something to work in an area where that's not what they do. So let's go back. DC Direct or DC Universe. Let's go back to DC Universe. Let's finish this off, and then we'll get to sales charts. Sales charts.
I believe everybody on maybe not Charlie. Everybody on this call is a DCU subscriber.
Nope.
For life, baby. For life.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm a subscriber.
Okay.
I've had it since it launched.
Yeah, and they just renewed my annual membership. But Ryan, you have a news item to read. I will just say, out of all of this news, everything that you've read and everything that you haven't read, because there's even more about Warner Brothers in general.
Yeah. Yep.
Much like DC Direct, RIP, or DC Collectibles, also RIP, there is really, in the current world, no reason for DC Universe to exist.
No.
At the time it was launched, there was a reason for it. If HBO Max existed a year ago, there would be no DC Universe. It would have never been born.
No.
So I agree that it wouldn't have been born in the form that it took.
That's what I'm meaning.
But I still think it has a place in competition with Marvel Unlimited and that kind of stuff. Like, I would consider it a shame if the comics were just taken off from subscriptions as a whole.
And I don't think that's going to happen, because I feel like that is your big push. The digital subscription for the back catalog makes the most sense for me, because Marvel Unlimited, I know, is very successful, right? You have HBO Max. So here is what I think should happen. I don't know what's going to actually happen, but here's what I think should happen. They already have DC Universe built. It's already a thing, right? You already have people subscribed to it. You have no new original content coming for it, right? Oh boy, if we have time, maybe I'll squeeze in the Stargirl finale talk, spoiler talk. Maybe we save that for next week, so everyone's seen it. DC Universe exists. It already has the comic content on there. It already has the TV shows and movies on there. All the TV show and movie stuff is going to be on HBO Max. Every single last one of that stuff. They all are at some point eventually, right? All the DC comic stuff, or the TV shows and movies will be there. Animation, everything will be on HBO Max. There is no reason HBO or DC Universe can't coexist with HBO Max as a separate DC portal, where for the additional charge, you also get access to the comic books. So you have HBO Max, you pay your subscription for that. You pay your $6.99 a month for DC Universe. It also acts as a portal to those shows and movies where it puts them all into DC Universe, but it's basically accessing HBO Max, which you already have to have a subscription to, right? But the $6.99 gives you access to the comic books. Now, if you have DC Universe and not HBO Max, then you don't get access to the movies and TV show. But if I have my DC Universe app on the TV or my phone, if I'm out there and I want to read some old Batman comics and then flip over to an episode of Lois and Clark, it's already there. It's already part of HBO Max. It's already part of the same service. Now, of course, they could get rid of it entirely. They can move the comics over to an additional fee to HBO Max, which that'd be fine as well. But I think keeping that separate little portal makes sense from a brand and marketing. It's just one more place for you to see this stuff. It just won't have any exclusive content. And that's very obvious at this point. That's my hope. Who knows what's going to happen? But the entire team was laid off, basically. It's like a skeleton crew at DC Universe right now, which all but confirms that it's going to be completely absorbed in the HBO Max, which makes 100% sense given the current climate. But it's already exists. It's already made. It's installed. People have accounts to it. We could get an email on January 1st that says DC Universe is going to be merging with HBO Max. If you'd like to subscribe for an additional $5 a month to still access the comics, link it to your HBO Max account. Boom, you're linked. Good to go. Right?
Would you, Ryan, subscribe to that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yep. I actually really should subscribe to Marvel Unlimited as well. I find their price a little high, though. They've had some deals from time to time, but I think it was like $100 a year or something. I find that price is a little higher than I like. But Disney Plus with a $5 add-on a month for Marvel Unlimited, easy, no question.
Right.
I could see that happening down the road. I mean, the reason I got in for HBO Max or for DC Universe was the cheap price and the original content. Again, not even a question. If it's just comics, I mean, I love comics. I just have them all. Right. I don't need this service, and that's sort of my thing with Marvel Unlimited. If Disney Plus was like, we're going to make Marvel Unlimited also the home to all the animation, it's going to have its own app that you can use, put on your TV, that might be worth it instead of having to go through Disney Plus to get to the Marvel stuff.
Well, imagine that right now you're just starting from ground zero, okay? And there's a DC Universe, I'm using air quotes for the listeners, that's just comics. There's a Marvel Unlimited that's just comics, and there's Comixology Unlimited that's just comics, obviously. Mm-hmm. Would you pay for those three services? They're not linked to anything else. They're standalone services.
Would I personally?
Yes.
No. I don't need to.
Right.
With the average consumer, I think so.
So I especially feel like
Charlie feels like the perfect person for this.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I mean, the reality is I disengaged from single issues a while ago. And I've done a pretty good job between the shop for a long time and now through DC Universe that, like, I can read an issue of this and decide if I'm buying the hardcover, or read the entire thing and then buy the hardcover in some cases. But it's one of those things where I have not double dipped quite as much because of the app as I used to. Because it used to be like, oh my god, I really want to I really want to read Doomsday Clock again. Well, I better buy the small hardcovers while waiting for the absolute and all that. Now with the app, I don't buy the smaller hardcovers knowing that eventually they'll have the single, deluxe, or the absolute eventually. It kind of gives me that ability that, especially if I've supported something in the single issues, to just wait for the format that I want it in, and it gives me an easy way to do a reread without digging up single issues or anything like that. The only sort of stopgap for me right now, and I mean this is just from you and I talked about this a little bit at the shop. I am so used to knowing what happens in current books that because of the pandemic, I haven't been at the shop very much. I haven't been buying very many comics at all, like single issues, or been at the shop working and have a chance to check out issues. I have no clue what's happened in Death Metal so far, and that does bother me. It bothers me that I don't want to go out there and find spoilers, but I also haven't read any of it. So,
but you wouldn't get Death Metal on that app.
No. But I'm saying there's a good chance.
6 months down the road, you will. You're down the road.
Yeah, but his problem is he's not current in the conversation.
No, and that's the one part of it that these apps don't solve for me, realistically. And one of those things that has me looking towards certain things, just jumping on potentially the single issues. Not that I've done it yet, but as long as I'm not working the shop, which I don't know when I will be back in the shop, it's one of those things I will have to solve.
Ryan, I know you can't speak for the entire retailer community. I can't even say that sentence without laughing. But just to take a survey of one retailer, the one who's here, what would be the kind of blackout window before they could release a new release comic digitally on DC Universe that would make you comfortable?
I mean, I think 6 months is fine. I think that's what Marvel Unlimited
What about
does.
3 months? Like if Death Metal #1 came out next week on DC Universe, too soon?
Not really, honestly, because the people that wanted it fucking buy it the week it comes out, right? I mean, that's 99% of your sales is like release week. Yeah. So I think if Death Metal #1 comes out tomorrow digitally, I'm going to get people asking me, where's 2 and 3? Can I buy it? Because I just read 1, right? I mean, I don't have the fear of digital that people do. I think it's going to make the better stuff sell better.
So I have a slightly different view on this, not as a retailer, but just as a looking to stimulate sales. I think the 6-month time frame works really well because the first issue hits digital roughly the same time the trade is about to come out. Like it has that very easy, like, read the first one, rush out and buy the trade.
And I think that's intentional. I really think that's the intentional timing because we're going to get the We're going to get the Three Jokers. The Three Jokers hardcover a month after issue 3 comes out. That is shockingly fast for DC. Marvel has put a few things out pretty quick, but that is fast for DC because they want to hit that Christmas date. I don't think that's going to cut into the sales of the singles at all. And that may show like, hey, man, these big books, we got to get out immediately because strike when that iron's hot, man.
And to the 3-month sort of time frame, I could absolutely see them putting out issue 1 at the 3-month mark and then waiting the full 6 months for every other issue. Again, to Ryan's point of if you can get #1 out, people come asking about 2 and 3 and boost those single issues a little faster.
Yeah. I'm not the right person to ask about that. I'm sure you get very different answers if you ask the retailer forums. I think.
The one thing I always found really interesting was I'm a big fan of data to back up like that kind of thing. And I'm sure I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I'm a big fan of the Skull Kickers comic by Jim Zub. And he on his blog has been very transparent a couple of times, tracking like this is when the trade came out, this is how it affected the sales of the comic, that kind of thing. When they start putting out that comic like for free digitally, like as one of those like put out a page a day kind of thing, the increase in issue sales and trade sales that happened immediately after that was very noticeable. So it is a interesting sort of phenomena when you do experiment with this. If you have somebody paying attention to the numbers, there's some very compelling stories you can find from looking at those numbers.
And it makes sense, right? I mean, I don't think you put the entire thing out digitally for free immediately, but yeah.
Well, it's
3 months later.
It's digital. It's you're putting out the digital subscription service. You're putting it on the subscription service.
Yeah,
right.
Paywall.
Right. There is a slight paywall, but the thing is if you release that first one in 3 months, you might have interest in that book, and if they're already reading it digitally, they may go and actually buy that comic digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which again is good for the company.
Yeah.
Like if it sells digitally or it sells to a shop, the bottom line, I don't. If it causes an extra 100 copies to sell digitally and one more copy to sell from Ryan's shop, I think both are happy at that point.
Yeah. Going back to DC Universe, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see if they continue to do new material with any of the existing properties under HBO Max. Obviously, Harley Quinn was pretty successful. Stargirl's moving to CW. Titans obviously is going to HBO Max. Swamp Thing got canceled, but it's going to be on CW, so we'll see if it gets a bump. We have Green Lantern coming to HBO Max.
I just need them to announce Doom Patrol Season 3 at this point.
Doom Patrol. I don't expect any of the stuff to get scrapped.
I need a Season 3.
Well, it's existing content to draw more people to HBO Max if that's their only option. I know there's not a ton of subscribers to DC Universe compared to something like Disney Plus, but if you can get a couple 100,000 more people to sign up for HBO Max because it has the original DC content, why not, right? So, yeah, I mean,
it's basically these streaming services are just going to become package deals like your cable, right? You can get all the families you want, you pay the HBO Max, you get all of it, but we have a package if you only want this, or a package if you only want this.
Well, no, it's the exact opposite. That's not what they're doing. They're putting everything into the single app. So everything is HBO Max.
No, I understand everything from that point, but what you're talking Disney about Plus. Is like the DC Universe books, like comic books, you can add that onto your HBO Max subscription.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking
I would
about.
like that, but I don't know. Right, we don't know. I would love for them to put Marvel Unlimited into Disney Plus, but who knows?
Yeah, because the thing is like for $7.99 you could charge for just the DC family stuff, or this stuff, or this stuff, or this stuff, or you just do HBO Max as a whole.
But they're not. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's just DC and HBO Max, and DC is gone, so everything is HBO Max. There is no like breaking down and charging of family. There's no Harry Potter app with all the Harry Potter movies and books or something. It's all HBO.
The thing about like the streaming service versus the not streaming service, and this just kind of gets to the way things have gone in general, is you can buy all the original DC Universe content digitally now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them have had physical disc releases and like that kind of stuff.
Almost all of them, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that worried about if somebody wants to sort of piecemeal it out, they're just going to buy the series they want to buy digitally. They don't need to give a like separate subscription service for that. And
they never put Mandalorian out digitally, did they?
Not as far as I know yet.
Okay. But you could buy Doom Patrol like on Apple, like on iTunes or on Apple.
I don't know about season 2, but season 1 absolutely.
Season 1? Okay.
Season 1's on Blu-ray,
that's interesting.
Blu-ray as well.
Yeah, and Swamp Thing is, and Titans. Yeah.
I mean, now that season 2's done, I would assume eventually it's going to show up there.
There's been no Mandalorian. There's no Mandalorian like Blu-ray or 4K release, huh?
No, not that I know so far. As far as I know, the Disney Plus stuff has not gone that route yet.
It's like Netflix. like one season did of Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and did Luke? Did two come out of Daredevil?
I want to say that stuff did go for sale digitally, just not physical release.
Just not physically. I think like 1 or 2 seasons did physically, but that was it.
Yeah.
So there's a small chance that actually some people that may have been affected by this are listening. At least 1 or 2 people are listening to this. So I do want to, just on a more personal note, and Kevin, I know you're kind of the same bag. If you worked at Warner Brothers or DC and you were affected by this, I mean, our heartfelt apologies. It's a terrible situation, and we're talking about the future of the comics and the movies in this very big macro sense. But I mean, the tragedy here is real people, and it's really sad.
And nobody gets into the comics business to get rich. Nobody.
It happens to a few people, but generally
it happens
not.
by accident. You're in it because you love the medium.
Yeah.
And so all these people who are gone now without jobs or wondering what their future is or uncertain are in it because they love comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's tough all around.
It is one of those careers where, like, if you don't like the material, what the hell are you doing there? Right? Like, come on.
Right.
Like, you just get another job. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have some interest in this stuff. So, yeah, it really sucks. Especially, like I said, I've had some very friendly chats with a few of these people, and it's real sad when people even worse now with the pandemic and everything. So I hope there's some real talented people. I hope they all bounce back. Who knows what DC is going to do in the future? I don't expect Marvel's and Disney's hiring anytime soon. They're furloughed a ton of people. I don't know. I mean, I as far as I know, the vast majority of editorial is still working from home. Marketing, I think, is way reduced. Image, IDW, Boom, like I can't imagine like other comic companies are really hiring at this point.
And Valiant, you saw that Valiant's announcement.
Yeah.
Their office is just closed.
Yeah.
People didn't get fired. Everybody's just working from home.
Yeah. They
realistically, you can make comics from home.
Yeah.
You don't need an office.
Yeah, there wasn't necessarily a reason to have an office.
The days of the Marvel bullpen,
long gone. Yeah.
Long gone.
Hey, it's a Zoom pen now. Okay.
Yeah. So, again, best wishes to everyone involved.
Yeah,
totally. Hopefully they're all bounce back, and we'll just see what happens with DC and Warner Brothers in a whole in the next 18 months or so. It's going to be interesting. I think through this year, I can't imagine anything is going to change drastically as far as output or changes. And we have DC Fandom in a week and a half. That's going to be interesting.
So
good time.
So that was the other awkward thing was
still scheduled
all Monday. While all this stuff is going on, this news is breaking about DC letting people go. DC's Twitter feed and all their Instagram and all that is pumping out this fandom advertising, and it's like,
scheduled tweets still send.
Yeah, I know, but it's like
that's
that's such a mixed message right there.
Go look at Warner Brother Media accounts 9 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
It's a flood of tweets all at 9 a.m.
Fandom is a movie and TV event that happens to have some crossover into comics.
Yeah.
You mean the things that
it's
based on?
Everything in this exists regardless of the people being let go. The movies and TVs are still existing. The things coming out are still going to come out. The comics they're going to announce. The creators still work there. No creators were let go, right? I mean, every creator that's going to be added, Tom King and Mitch Gerrits and Scott Snyder and Jeff Johns and all the people that were in that huge list, they're all, I think I saw Mitch Gerrits on there. They're all going to be there. I think they probably already recorded all this shit. It's probably done weeks ago. So, I unless they just straight up cancel it, I don't think it's going to be changed at all. They could, but I would think they would.
I just think from a PR standpoint,
it'd be really bad if they canceled.
It'd be really good if they canceled it. But also it was kind of bad that they did that big push on the specific day. I understand.
It's disconnected.
I understand it's one of those things where those things are churning out and automatic and so on and so forth. But when you're talking about streamlining and making everything work and all that stuff, it's definitely something that, this department should talk to that department about.
But 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 how many people
happen now than after the event? You can't hype up everybody and then come up with stories of a bunch of layoffs, right?
There he is.
You do all the layoffs, you announce all the good shit, and all the nerds are going to forget about all the stuff that happened.
And let's be honest, right? I mean, really, how many people care at the end of the day? How many people that saw, how many people that bought tickets to go see Dark Knight know that 800 people were laid off from Warner Brothers? 1%? 2%? Right? How many of them care? 1% of the 1%?
Fandom has been 6 months of work minimum putting that thing together.
Yeah.
And if 150,000 people, let's just throw out a number, pulling it out of my ass, attend that or watch part of it, again, same question that you just asked, Ryan. What percentage of the people watching Fandom are aware of the DC restructuring, A, and B, are bothered by it?
Okay,
Less than half, a quarter maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And that's it, maybe, yeah. Look, this whole thing sucks. Like, there's obviously people we all talk to, but I don't know where I was going with this. I'm sorry. Carry on.
Well, I
lost my track.
Well, there's understanding corporate restructuring. There's understanding why all this stuff happened, and then there's the personal nature of, oh shit, people lost their job, and people we know lost their job, which makes it even worse. So, Toby, good seeing you. You're here for your favorite part of the podcast.
Oh, great!
It's been months, but Toby.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Sorry, I remember now. No, I mean, obviously, a lot of these people that got laid off, they probably all worked on Fandom quite a bit, and I feel really bad for them that they don't actually get to experience the end product anyways. Like, I feel like for a lot of these people, like, they probably were expecting a good, like, hey, this is the thing we were working to, it's all going to get announced. Instead, a lot of these people got sent home packing, which that part really kind of bothers me. But I understand from a marketing perspective why you do this ahead of time. And also, there might be a fiscal quarter that they're hitting that they don't want to move into for the next one. So I don't know when it lands with them, but their quarter might be up, and all of these people have to get off the paper, before the new quarter starts. So
Yeah, I actually, that is curious. I wonder when Warner Brothers' fiscal year starts. It tends to only be like in the first. It tends to be in that like January through March area. I don't think fiscal years generally tend to start in April or August, September, but maybe I'm wrong.
Some companies start in October.
I guess it can be whenever they started. So, some people said, "Hey, is it possible that people could be on Fandom that have lost their job, but they actually have already recorded their parts?" Yeah. Or, and I was like, I don't think any of these people will be on screen. I mean, the people that are going to be on screen are creative and actors and directors, and those people have nothing to do with this. This is everyone behind the camera. So, but yes, projects people that were let go that have worked on are going to be on every aspect of Fandom. So it's going to be a little awkward for about 800 people, I think.
Yeah, and I think quite a few of them were probably expecting a rap party or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I maybe it was on the beat. Heidi McDonald said, the worst part of this is that, not the worst part, but one of the bad parts about this is that no one can see each other. No one's around. There isn't some big like hangout of all the people that got let go, after work or something. It's just people sort of just now disappear, which is normally how these things don't go. So I'm just sad. But if anything else happens in the future, we'll keep covering this. I'm sure we're not the last we're going to hear about the restructuring and what's to come. And Fandom again, we'll have next week is normal, but the week after should be a lot of Fandom talk if there's big news. And we'll see if anything shakes up between now and then.
But we got to get to those sales charts, though.
So this is really cool. I legitimately did not know this was going to happen. We have the return to sales charts. Because of the weird publishing schedule, it's actually the sales charts for the entire quarter 2 2020. So that's April, May, and June. Now, there's something different about these sales charts. These are sales charts of comic books sold to customers So much like NPD, this isn't the standard Diamond Comics sold to comic book stores sales charts. This is sales charts of comics that were sold directly to customers.
So this is sell-through numbers.
This is sell-through numbers. Now, how could that be? Because there is no standardized sales material for, or sales system for comic book stores. Well, Comic Hub has stepped up and is providing ICV2, which is the big like kind of industry trade mag, their sales numbers. Now, there's no data that gets put out. Comic Hub, their whole thing is that it's completely like the stores are all anonymous, the customers are anonymous. It's not like they're selling your data or anything like that. But they have sell through numbers.
These are the big numbers, the macro numbers, not
this
what we
combines
sell.
This is what we sell.
Well, no, this is what we as the Comic Hub people sell, but not our store individually.
Correct. This is what all the Comic Hub stores have sold. 85 comic stores were using Comic Hub as of March. That number has increased greatly in recent months. And the number of stores that will be reported in these reports will increase every month going forward. Charlie, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, so Diamond as an exclusive sort of distributor gave you a good idea of everything sold through Diamond, what the top results were.
Yep.
Comic Hub is gonna give you an advantage in terms of it's not necessarily just Diamond, just DCBS, just
correct
Random House,
it's everything.
What percentage of shops are actually using Comic Hub? And I guess this will also bypass what would be considered like the monthly boxes and that kind of stuff, because that wouldn't be through a system like Comic Hub as far as I know.
Now, I don't exactly know, but Comic Hub does take subscription boxes as a separate number. So it would be very easy for Comic Hub to say, the store ordered 100 copies, 50 copies are in subscription boxes, 25 copies were sold off the shelf, 25 copies remain on the shelf.
When I'm talking about subscription boxes, I don't mean like subscribers in the shop.
I'm sorry.
About the monthly exclusives that would pop up with an additional 300,000 copies of X.
Loot boxes.
They pulled those out of Diamond. Diamond doesn't report those numbers anymore. They haven't reported those for a couple of years. Those got completely pulled out. Yeah, Diamond doesn't involve that stuff anymore.
But I guess at the end of the day, I kind of feel like there's a huge asterisk on this because it's only shops with the hub.
Correct. So it's about 15% of shops, right? Roughly in that number, and 10 to 15%, somewhere in that range, right? No, my math work.
How many shops are in the United States or worldwide?
Yeah. Let's call it 10%. Let's call it 10%. 10%. But so while there are not numbers, we do not have numbers. We have chart positions, right? So that is the thing that we are missing. We have chart positions, not numbers. And we will not, as far as I know, we will not have numbers again because this is not the total number of comics sold. However, this is the chart of these.
We're doing Comixology's digital chart, basically, but for physical media.
Did they combine variant covers? Or?
They sure did. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All variant covers combined. So for the months of April, May, and June, DC Comics was 37.4% of the market. Marvel Comics was 25.7% of the market. Image was 10.3%. And boom, IDW, Dark Horse, Viz, Dynamite down the list, 4%, 3%, 2%. So clearly, I mean, obviously DC was going to be ahead because DC published all those months that Marvel was not publishing anything, or 6 weeks or so.
So it's no dollar total or item?
This is dollar total. Yep.
Okay.
So it's no surprise that DC took the top publisher as far as market share. Now we have the top 20 graphic novels sold, and we have the top 20 comics sold. I'm looking for the top 10 for comics, and I'll go through the graphic novels as well. We have units and dollar, but I'm going to stick with units just because that's always what we've done in the past. who can remember what shipped during the shutdown
Fuck my
and
life.
when we reopened? Who wants to take a guess at the top 10
Dark
comics?
Knight's Metal #1.
Dark Knight's Metal #1 is the #1 book sold by Comic Hub comic stores in Q2 2020.
Deceased Dead Planet.
Deceased Dead Planet would be July, so no, that's not on the
So is it
However,
Unkillables?
Unkillables
Okay.
#3 is the #10 book.
Okay.
When
I
did
got the
Negan
top-
Lives come out?
What's that?
When did Negan Lives come out?
That I
July.
believe was July as well.
Okay.
I have no idea if this is a hot book to the general populace beyond your store, but Strange Adventures #2?
Strange Adventures #2 is the #11 book.
Okay.
Got that conspiracy bump
That's
there.
a Comics Conspiracy #2 book, right?
It probably is.
Did we sell out of 2?
Nah, based on this list, it's higher than a couple of these books, but it's not as high as the top couple.
Was the Wonder Woman Dead Earth on there?
No, not in the top 20. Not in the top 20.
I'm just
this
gauging.
is character. I'm trying to think the best way to describe him.
He swings in. on a web.
His parents were killed in an alley when he was a child.
Yeah, they made a couple movies, I think, back in the day.
Batman.
Lives in a cave.
Dark something. Yeah. Batman sure has a few books on this list. #8 is the Batman Adventure Continues. Sorry, Batman: The Adventures Continue. #1. Our employee
nice.
Marshall. Our employee Marshall hates that name. Batman:
it sucks.
The Adventures Continue.
I am with Marshall on it. It's a crappy name.
He hates the name Batman, or he hates the title of that comic?
The title of the comic.
I mean,
That's okay. I love that comic. I don't care what they call it.
Batman: The Adventure Continues is what it should be called, but it's called Batman: The Adventures. I don't know, whatever. #6 is the Catwoman 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular. #5 is Batman 93. #3 is Joker 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular. And #2 is Batman 92 for Sprint's Punchline. So a lot of Bat family in the top 10. We need the #9 book. Marvel's got 3 spots, and that's all that's left. 3 Marvel spots. #9, #7, and #4.
Did some Empire thing come out?
No Empire on here. No Empire. Empire was June. Or July. That's been weekly.
Is X-Men on there?
X-Men #9. Yep, that slipped in very end of June. That's the #7 title.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 43 is the #9 title, and it's Spider-Man related. Venom #25 is the #4 book. Big book, big speculation on that book. Venom has been stupid. My Venom numbers are like not Batman high, but they're
I just can't.
we got Lee's Venom guys, okay?
I don't. So I have some numbers for DC books that I'm like, these are the really good selling DC books, and they hit a specific number. I have not had a Marvel book hit that specific number in quite some time. Thor and Venom now hit that number. It is dumb how crazy those books are selling.
The current Thor.
Yeah. And it is a lot of speculation. I have a lot of people buying 5 copies of it.
It's
so
tons of speculation. Somebody just on Monday, I had to add on for FOC 4 more copies to a 3rd print of #5 for Thor.
Yeah, it's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. Also in the top 20, from 20 up, we got Justice League 44, New Mutants 10, Detective 1022, Curse of the White Knight 8, Avengers 33, the Green Lantern 80th Anniversary Special. Good seeing that on there. Wolverine 2, Marauders 10, Thor 5, which you're going to see Thor shoot up this list for the next few issues, and The Strange Adventure #2. Of course, no surprise, the Joker 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular is the #1 book by dollar amount, because that's a $10 comic. So love those $10 comics. Now, something
Joker,
very interesting.
Catwoman, Green Lantern.
Yep, all 3 of them came out. Yep. Now, some real interesting stuff with the top 20 graphic novel sales. There's some pretty obvious stuff in here, but you get a book like Sentient is the #20 book. That's a TKO book. That would never have been on Diamond's chart because Diamond doesn't put that book out. Doomsday Clock, November, which is the Kieran Gillen book, Batman Who Laughs, Die, Deadly Class, House and Powers. I mean, there's a bunch of normal stuff on here, but Dark Knight's Metal is on there. Something is Killing the Children, Harleen.
What was the number one graphic novel? What was
number one is Batman Last Night on Earth. Shouldn't really be a big surprise. Yeah. Big seller. Now, the number 2 book, this is where Comic Hub, the numbers will become a little skewed occasionally. The number 2 book is the Image OGN Bog Bodies. Now, the reason those numbers are skewed for Bog Bodies, it's a really good selling book, but my boys at Big Bang, Duncan Shelby's Irish. He's local to them. They do huge events with him regularly. I know they pushed a shitload of Bog Bodies. So where you have a more limited base to draw from and a store that really gooses a specific book, a book like Bog Bodies, probably as far as like total numbers from Diamond or the main distributors or whatever, is probably not quite that high. It's for sure it's very high. It's a OGN by Image, so I'm sure it got a lot of orders. We did well with it. We sold a handful. But yeah, Superman Smashes the Klan, number 5, gets to this, still that on there. Saga number 1 of number 6. And again, this is sold to people. This isn't the comic stores, right? So Saga number 1 still selling, still that big book. So interesting list. And what's funny is sometimes I look at the list of Diamond and I'm like, huh? Really? These lists make sense to me.
Well, like, I expect to see Old Guard sales go up on the charts in the next, month or two.
You would have to, but it's going to be the Umbrella Academy thing. I don't think a lot of stores had them in stock when that movie came out. I didn't. I know that.
They didn't. But it's one of those things where you're going to see an increase in order, which means you're probably going to see an increase in sales.
Yeah. Oh, and you would have anyway. So.
And the second trade just got solicited this previews?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I think it's just at FOC. I think I just put it there.
Okay, then it was supposed to be okay.
So when you go over to Top Graphic Novels by dollar, a few things pop up. House and Powers hardcover slips up to the number 1 spot. And a bunch of omnibuses a bunch of hardcovers and omnibuses jump in. The Saga Compendium 1 is the number 4 book. The Astonishing X-Men by Whedon and Cassidy, new printing, is the number 13 book.
That's another one that came and
went. Yeah, real fast.
She-Hulk omnibus on there?
Well, again, I think that'd be July. So a little different sales charts, but we do what we do. And I don't know how long Comic Hub is going to be given these numbers, but I am super excited to have these. Now, one of the problems of Comic Hub, it doesn't do a really good job of combining variant covers sales. We can do it on a per run basis. So I can look at Amazing Spider-Man and collapse those numbers, but I can't collapse those numbers when I do the exporting reports. So I now have to talk to Stu and be like, Stu, I need this for the store, man. I need this per store. I just do my own store numbers.
Well, because
hopefully we can.
Because when that Detective 1027 comes out and it has our store exclusive cover.
Oh, that's going to be. That's obviously very different. So, yeah. All right, that's it. I think we're done.
No questions.
No questions. No nothing.
Oh, wow.
We are wrapping up. It's been a long. I knew we were going to have a lot to talk about this week, so I figured. We just do what we do, and
pouring one out for all the homies.
Thank you all for listening to this podcast. Again, if you've been affected by the layoffs at Warner Brothers, we want to, again, give our apologies, and hopefully things pick up. I know it's rough, so just we'll keep in our thoughts.
We're all
and good luck.
And we want what's best for the community.
Yeah, of course. And if you're fearful about DC in the future, I closed my window, so I don't have the exact quote here, but there was a quote that came directly from Variety from people at Warner Brothers that said, their plan is to expand the reach of DC Comics, not reduce it. So, I don't think there's going to be a lot of effect to material, the movies, the TV shows. It may be different, maybe a little. Of course, it's going to be somewhat different, but I think the good stuff's still going to come out, and the comics are still going to come out. And just stay positive. And I stuff like this happens regularly, and everything's still around. Comic companies have done this multiple times. Not the first, won't be the last. So, the sky's not falling yet. Thank you to Joe Duff, Andrew Nelson Mendez at Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast, Craig Anderson at CraigPAnderson.com. And I know he's been posting a bunch of videos recently. Go check out his videos there if you're if you want to be the best professional you can be. If you're looking for a little boost in your career, Craig Anderson can help. James Laws, Jimmy Rivera at the Social Forum podcast, Jesse Peterson at the Comic Book Matters podcast, and Martin Aguilar, who wants to give a shout out to his girlfriend's artwork at Instagram at Lost Ghost Flower and Etsy.com/shop/Lost Ghost Flower. Thank you all very much for your continued support at Patreon.com/Comic Conspiracy. As little as $1 a month, you can help support this podcast. We always appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you go over to comicconspiracypodcast.com, geekbox.net, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, you can find all our previous episodes, rate and review us. That always helps. YouTube.com/comicsconspiracy if you want to find some this episode in audio format, but on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe you like listening on YouTube. I don't know why. It's there. The Comic Conspiracy at geekbox.net for those longer questions, of course. More than 280 characters can go to an old-fashioned thing called email. If you ever heard of it, you can still send us that.
We need to do more of those.
And if you go to comicsconspiracy.biz, that is our physical storefront. We are shipping all the time. You can buy stuff on there.
Jesus, we're shipping.
And it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love this job security, but man.
I'm usually having to find ways to put extra graphic novels in the back. I'm not having to put things to hold up our graphic novels because I'm selling so much. They're falling over on the shelf. I have so much extra room now. It's crazy. Can't get stuff back in stock fast enough. Comicsconspiracy.biz, and that is where you can pick up our signed edition and our unsigned edition of our Detective Comics 1027 exclusive variant cover by Mr. Miracle and Strange Adventure artist Mitch Gerrards. Please go over there. We got a little stack of those signed ones left, but I'm selling a bunch every day. They will not last forever. So, comicsconspiracy.biz.
Shipping papers is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
We've sold a lot. Limited to 250 copies. And make sure, again, once it's gone, it's gone. We're not going to get more signed. So, go check that out. Comicsconspiracy.biz. Brock has conspiratorBrock.com. That is his site. You can go check out his unboxing videos and pull list videos over there. Wanders in the Fourth Dimension podcast. That's Charlie's Doctor Who podcast. Go see what the good doctor is up to today. And if you want to if you want to read Kevin's creator interviews, you can go over to his Between the Panels series of articles at fanbasepress.com. And as well as my wife, Leanne, she is selling a bunch of art and prints on Etsy at etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art. We also have all her art at the store and on our website as well, which you can always pick up from us. Please go to Twitter and follow all of us, Ryan Higgins, Ryan, Brock Sager. That's me and Brock. Toby is Toby XI. Thanks for checking in, Toby, if you're still listening. Insanity and Chaos is Charlie. That Kevin Sharp is Kevin, and the store is Comics Con Store. And there was no Geek Box this week. Ryan Scott's new job has been killing him. He's like, I'm going to pass out. So we didn't record last night, but we will be back next week for a new episode. So please check out the Geek Box podcast and Manga Machinations. Some of my friends over there that do some good stuff. Talk about manga and anime. A lot of fun stuff. Okay, that's it. We're going to stop recording now. Thank you, and we'll catch everyone next week.